Welcome to the first presentation on the year report. This presentation will introduce the structure of the year report. The year report consists of two parts. The Board of Directors report, which will give a lot of information about how the company was run, what happened this year, what kind of elements have been influencing the year, what kind of things have changed, and the annual accounts. And the annual accounts basically consist of the financial statements and only the financial statements. You should not read the annual accounts without reading the Board of Directors reports to get a feeling for why the annual accounts are as they are. In the case of this business game, you have 10 pages for your year report. So the Board of Directors report, it contains the developments over time in this case. So changes in contract type, fleet composition, and did you change a vessel, did you buy a new vessel, did you sell another vessel, your operational area, were you operating in Europe but moved to the Americas, the trips or the lack of the trips, the lack of the success or the success you had, displaying your profits over time. All those kind of things can be part of the Board of Directors report. Also, developments in the market that have influenced you, but try to be precise and try to be quantitative in what these aspects are. So freight prices that have changed over time, make recordings of those. The cost, have your fuel prices changed? The number of contracts available in a certain area, keep track of that. Operational areas of your competition, did more and more people come into your area, did more ships become active in your area? All those kind of things are developments in the market that might affect how your company has performed and which you can then discuss in the Board of Directors report. Also discuss the following three important parameters. The activity rate, so the time for the time on the contract, the time you are not on the contract but sailing empty, and the time waiting. So this is seen as a trip in the game from port A to port A. So from the same port to the same port is a week waiting time. This activity rate you can compare, of course, with the activity rate you assumed in your business plan. Do it for yourself and you can report on it if you were exactly right or way off, and highlight the differences why you were not as successful or even more successful than you already planned in your business plan. Also look at the contracts you had and average them. So you get your utilization rate. How much cargo did you take for the dead weight of each vessel? How much cargo did you take compared to the volume for the cargo of each vessel? And finally, look at the freight rates and the distance you took as an average. So the average freight rates over time and the average distance. Did they change over time? All those kind of things are of interest for your readers in the Board of Directors report to get an idea of how your performance was in the last year. Then the annual accounts, the financial statements. They will contain your income statement, so your profit and loss statement, which is directly available from the game. You can put it in as it is, but I would invite you to add more detail. So if there's elements in your Board of Directors report that are highlighting something, make sure you link to that in your annual account. So if you are talking about penalties and the penalties don't show up, then it's hard for the reader to see how big this impact actually was. So make sure that you make an actual subcategory of the penalties. It will also help the reader in understanding your profit and loss statement if you add subtotals. So look at the documentation provided. There are certain subtotals that help look at the time charter equivalent and stuff like that. If you add these to your profit and loss statement, it will help your reader understand where you made a profit, where your difficulties were. Also, it should include a balance sheet and not just one. You need a balance sheet for the start and the finish of each year. These are provided almost automatically, but make sure that you have one for both the start as well as the finish. If we play more than 1 year, of course, the start of the next year is the finish of the year before. So basically, take the number of years you've played and make sure you have one more balance sheet than the number of years you are presenting in your year report. Also, it is important to discuss near the balance sheet the indicators, the ratios that I will be explaining in one of the next videos. These ratios are the working capital, the current ratio, the quick ratio, the solvency, the return on equity, and the return on capital employed for all the balance sheets. Finally, the cash flow statements is also required in a annual account, because there's a unity. The cash flow statement, the profit and loss statement, and the balance sheet together form one financial statement. The cash flow statement you will need to create yourself from your bank account. You are able to download all the transactions in your bank account easily into Excel and then group them and sum them. It should not be that complicated. What I also would like to see, because 1 year is short and only one cash flow is a very short overview, make sure that you provide some sort of overview in the year. If you did not already do that in the Board of Directors report part, then do it in this part. So make sure there's some timeline on a week basis or a quarter basis or a month basis, I don't care, on a trip basis, that shows the development over time. That shows if you were going to a dip and then up, or if you have gone up and then to a dip, but that shows me some information about how you've done over the time. Finally, at the end of the annual accounts, there are the notes. And the notes clarify the methods of calculation and single events affecting the values reported. So make use of the notes if relevant. Feel free to download any example year report from a company as inspiration. There will be some available on Brightspace if you're a part of TUDelft, and if not, have a look around. Shipping companies like Belship, they are listed, so they will always have the last financial accounts available for you to have a look at. In the next two videos, I will further go into the annual accounts and what they presented it and how to look at those. The Board of Directors report will not be discussed further, and I hope it will be clear from this video. Thank you for your attention.